Well, hello, that's me again. Today is the 22nd of October 2024, and what you see in the beginning, no, it's just not just merely a rival of the what amounts to the biggest nations in the world, both in economic sense and population and GDP or what have you. And I really, almost have to quote the REM famous song, It's the End of the World, and you know it, but I feel fine. And this is the end of the world as we knew it, essentially, because the world was dominated by the Western, well, some people say hegemony. Well, yeah, if we want to be realistic and honest to ourselves, we live in the world shaped by the Western civilization. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, fact is, we lived through the last 500 years with an incredible achievements in science, culture, art, what have you. So there's not everything is bad or was bad about the Western world. I'm a Western man. I am a Renaissance man. The music of Beethoven, and the art of Leonardo are dear to me. This is my second nature. I cannot live without them. At least even from the idea that they do not exist, it will be absolutely torturous for me, as it will be for many people. But the truth is, and especially if we look at the history of the 20th century, this was the West, which produced not only crazy ideologies, but essentially it progressed towards extracting usury instead of producing anything, and it actually started two world wars, which eclipsed everything we knew in history about the violence and some things which have been done to humanity, which was supposed to be by the 20th century, enlightened by all those wonderful humanistic ideas, from, socialist utopists to philosophers and things like that. Yet, we ended up with the concentration camps and mass slaughter of civilians. So, and then we had the Bretton Woods, and we had, all kinds of things which were happening there in the United Nations, but it was all West dominated. And that time is over. It's what you see here, and you have to understand. 30 heads of state have arrived to Kazan, 20,000 delegates, and I want to immediately address the hysteria, all those, emotional things from many people. Oh my God, they will not accept a single unit, like currency. Yeah, you know what? Have you ever been in the house, which is the old house and which is to be removed from the development for the area for the development of the new community, for example, with the new houses, new apartment blocks, and things like that? I don't think so. You would like it. Because you know what? The moment they blow up this old building to remove it, you will be inside and you will be killed. And so you have to keep in mind that people like Vladimir Putin or Z, they operate on the long-term plans because nobody wants to collapse dollar, for example, now and collapse it catastrophically because guess what? US imploding completely together with the West, it may bring about the World War III, thermonuclear one. Many people still don't get it. You have to squeeze it, which is happening, and which de facto already happened, but you have to do it slowly. We already know the basically situation, the alternative payment system is already in place, and now we're going to be talking about, oh my God, we have to wait and see. It's the BRICS summit only started, but we already have the very interesting statements by the heads of state from Mr. Modi, Mr. Xi Jinping, and all kinds of people are out there, and they stressing that how important it all is. And well, what can I say? Suddenly, International Monetary Fund improves the forecast for the economic growth of Russia. Who cares what they do? That's the whole point. At this point of time, all those rating agencies and things like that, international monetary funds, they become irrelevant for the formation of the new world, whose arrival the Kazan summit, BRICS, is heralding. We are in this moment. Yeah, there is no unipolar world anymore. It hasn't been for a while, but point is the hysteria in the West tells you everything you need to know about that. As my good friend Larry Jones correctly stated, that actually when you want to know why people in the West have been that brainwashed, and why those uh, political leadership doesn't even understand what is happening in any kind of the rational terms. They just feel it. You can go and see that Russians are literally beginning to mock everything what is related to the special military operation. And as you can see yourself, Russian soldiers troll the West while story about leaked intelligence goes missing. Larry talks about the leaked intelligence about the Israel attempts or plans to strike Iran, but the point is what Russians did. Of course, they just erased a Russian flag at some important location in Donbass, and they put out North Korean flag just to really troll those imbeciles from all kinds of the think tanks in the West who still believe that somehow Korean troops are there. North Korean troops are there. Well, you have to understand that actually there are many Yakuts. There are many people of Asiatic origin who do look like Koreans. So, and many of them, they fight, and they begin to literally troll everything, basically, from NATO, from their all think tanks, their operational planning departments, and all those people who think that they know what real warfare is. They don't, and of course now they're openly mocked. And believe me, you can go to my blog and take a look at those memes. Those video, humor just it literally writes itself. You don't even have to offer any kind or, apply any kind of effort there, because it's absolutely ridiculous what is happening in the West today. And so, not to be overly facetious in this respect, just to demonstrate to you, this is, you may not know what it is, but actually it's in Krasnodar a couple of days ago, and you will say, okay, Krasnodar is the Russian city, but why you have these black dudes, with Russian uniforms, and they, what are they doing there? Well, simple as that. They, as any cadets, who are the part of the garrison. Every single military academy is always the part of the city garrison where it is located. And these are the exchange cadets. You can see in their epaulets that they are cadets of the military academy, and they are simply called on to, provide some kind of the, security at the demonstration of this, defeated NATO equipment. So Russia does a lot of exchange, not exchange really, I mean, it's just many African countries, for example, continue to still send their students, and especially, friendly African countries, and they study in Russian military academies. They become the officers and very often ministers of defense in African countries. And here they are, as they say, Black Russian, that's Black Russian. Okay, these are guys who are pretty smart, they are very well disciplined, but they love to listen to their music, and Russian people just know this. But that tells you everything you need to know. This is one of those snippets, if you wish, of the situation which is happening, especially around the globe, with the exception of the combined West. And if just to kind of stress what is going on with this combined West, let's take a look first at the tactical minutiae, if you wish, or operational minutiae. We have the latest data from yesterday that the losses, you can see those numbers, okay? As I already stated, multiply them by 2. They are horrifying numbers, which of course are going to be leveled at the combined West. And what we spoke about yesterday, me and Colonel Daniel Davis, we spoke about this, that actually the Article 5 has been already de facto implemented. Actually, it's thanks to my friend Colonel Vladimir Trukhan, who pushed this kind of, conclusion, which it is true. So, and yeah, these are NATO forces which are being absolutely obliterated there. And let's start with, for example, situation at, well, yeah, here it is. That's Kursk, okay? You see this blue and red thick line or segment? I even, provided the red arrow to it. This is the end of this cauldron, so to speak. The cauldron has been closed, and there are all kinds of people there screaming at the radio communications, and Russians, of course, listening to this, including all those, battalions of the, for example, Latin American volunteers. They demand to be extricated. They demand to be, given orders to pull back. They're not going to get those orders. They will be killed. In fact, is, well, I do not want to speculate here, but after what they committed in terms of their atrocities in Kursk area, such as, for example, Polish, evidently volunteers, quote unquote, they simply rounded up civilians and hung them under the bridge in one of the villages. So it's all coming up in the, what will be the International Tribunal on the Crimes in the of Ukraine, and obviously by default of the West against Russian civilians, and that's just part of it. So will they take many POWs? And I'm not sure that Russians are really keen at really taking POWs anymore. But here it is. That's what we have. Now, our very good friend Marat Khairulin provides us with excellent updates in terms of the, as you can see yourself, Selidova. It was yesterday, completely surrounded. So, and already the recon diversionary groups are operating in Vishneva, as you can see yourself. And yeah, Kurakhova, yeah, they are in the administrative regions of Kurakhova now. Yeah, here it is. That's how it looks like, as you can see yourself. And yeah, the offensive goes on along the whole line, along the whole 800 miles almost line. And here we have Kruglikovka, as you can see yourself. You see those blue thingies, with the, that's the positions of the Ukrainian Armed Forces of Ukraine. Very many of them are actually NATO people. They are basically dead. That's the picture. If you, for example, God forbids, of course, this is what the doctor sees when he gets his CT scan on the 4th-stage cancer of his patient. And so this doctor looks and he said, yeah, he's dead. Nothing we can do about it. It's non-operable. It's no chemotherapy will help. That's this picture. And as you can see yourself, very many of them are, yeah, they're pretty much dead by now. So the situation developing on the front in a such way, apart from the obviously historic in its scale and scope BRICS summit, that, well, people who do not like Russians that much, they are elites, make no mistakes. There are many Poles who are decent people, and as I already stated, if you probably would remember the tragic death of Mr. Kaczynski on his approach to Yaroslavl, which obviously Polish administration decided that they know better than Russian dispatchers who said, to turn around and go away. But when this tragedy happened there, and you would go to the internet, and in all kinds of forums, you would literally read the love fest between Russians and Poles. And it's incredible, so it's not about many Polish people, but elites are psychotic. But guess what? Even the Rzeszow, which is the major Polish publication, look what they Right. This is machine translation. It's Lech Mazevsky. He wrote it a week or so ago. And he talks about Dorzechi. He talks about that Poland and Russia after the war in Ukraine. Obviously, many people in Poland, they do understand what is going on. They they anticipate it with joy. Others obviously anticipate it in utter fear and terror. But here Mr. Oleg Mazevsky writes, the moment of ending of the current phase of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict is approaching. Obviously, he is being very generous because the Ukraine, as we know it, will cease to exist. And so it's not the phase between Russian and Ukrainian conflict. We need to constantly keep in mind that this is the conflict between Russia and NATO. And so he writes about, obviously there is a problem of what Polish-Russian relations would look like in this situation. First, yes, let's not discount what I just described to you, the fact that Polish volunteers, so to speak, many of them obviously cadre officers of the Polish army, armed forces, they committed unspeakable atrocities which equal that of the, Nazi Germany and, their Western Ukrainian counterparts who basically, well, guess what? Slaughtered 140,000 Poles in Volhynia. But so, yeah, it comes back to bite Poland in its behind. And now they talk about, as Lech Mazevsky writes, that we need to come to some kind of the modus vivendi. Live and let live. So, well, the problem is with this present elites, and again, go back to Colonel Daniel Davis and my conversation yesterday. Those people, they are scared, let's face it. The Western elites are scared. And but you cannot have modus vivendi. Those people will continue to basically spit at you, throw garbage at you. They will continue to do some, that's pretty much what amounts to state terrorism. This is the only thing they are capable of because they are not capable of fighting real war. And they know they will be defeated now. At least now this idea is, basically being, comprehended by them. But what kind of modus vivendi? What are we going to do after what have happened? What we're going to do after the million of Ukrainian men have been killed, million have been maimed, Ukraine have been completely, basically half of the population run away. And Ukrainian state has ceased to exist, which essentially it already did, because it exists only on the basically the nations essentially of the combined West. What are you going to do? How are you going to look into your eyes after that, of your counterpart and say, oh yeah, water under the bridge, let's forget about it. No, you cannot forget it. This still is the largest war in Europe after World War II. And guess what? The rest of the world looks at it and they look in there with horror. What combined West is capable of some most inhumane atrocities, which actually Israel, essentially running the foreign policy of the United States, basically demonstrated to us. I mean, instead of the proper reaction, commensurate reaction to which essentially amounts to Hamas terrorism attempt on the October 7, we actually received genocide of Palestinian people. So the world outside looks at it. They're not stupid there. They understand everything what is happening there. They make their own conclusions about the combined West. And just to demonstrate the dramatic difference between, for example, BRICS, and Mr. Gutierrez, of course, is invited there. He is already spoken about that his position on Ukrainian conflict. It's not Ukrainian conflict. Ukraine is merely disposable tool for the West, but between Russia and the West didn't change. But here it is. Look at the contrast. That's the contrast. This is how it's supposed to be done. India and China reached deal on border dispute. Modi and Xi Jinping could hold a bilateral meeting. They will most likely. I know that Mr. Putin, Mr. Xi, and Mr. Modi will have personal meetings beyond the protocol of which is, of course, the largest diplomatic event probably of the century. And So India announced on Monday that it has reached an agreement with China on patrolling along the line of actual control, LAC, marking a key breakthrough in the 4-year military standoff between the two nuclear-powered neighbors. And again, keep in mind, you see, two nuclear-powered neighbors. These are, well, for all intents and purposes, despite problems, who doesn't have problems? Look at the combined West when you remove this, basically smoke and mirrors of this economic BS, which is being peddled all around the world by all kinds of the think tanks and Wall Street journals and rating agencies. West is in the complete economic ruin. But if you look attentively, you have one superpower, another superpower, and India getting there slowly but steadily of the Eurasian landmass. And these three guys, they are constituting the gigantic economic cluster, which actually dwarfs, for example, that of the combined West. If you look attentively at the real numbers of how and what is being produced. And so there you go. India and China kind of settled this issue. This is how you should be doing this. Diplomacy, give and take. That's what diplomacy is. It is give and take. It is basically what Max Weber stated. Of course, yeah, we know all those scholars, and we spoke about like morons like Michael McFaul or people of this nature who went through these degree meals in Stanford or any other Ivy League crap, which they know a lot about everything and nothing in particular. But Max Weber, famous sociologist, well, he stated that in order for you to achieve anything, you have to put yourself into the place of your counterpart. You have to kind of get the feeling of what they want and where they are coming from. Well, evidently, Max Weber is very good for people of the non-Western world. When you look attentively at the modern Western elites, my gosh, apart from being incompetent, those people do not have basic rudimentary skills of their self-reflection and analysis. And that is why they lose. There's a bunch of losers. They are the people who do not understand anymore how to do anything good. And as the result, well, what can I say? Again, going back to the opening of this video, you see yourself. The rest of the world just goes to Kazan, period. And they said we had it with this. And it's just to demonstrate to you what is a horrible situation this is. Just look at this. This is unbelievable. So Ivanishvili, it's, as you can see yourself, it's reported by RIA News, and that the West offered former Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili to start a war with Russia. Birzina Ivanishvili, founder and honorary chairman of the ruling Georgian Dream Party, said in an interview with the TV company Imedi. Yeah, Imedi is huge in actually in Georgia, not American Georgia. Georgia is the former Soviet Republic. So, and that's what they're talking openly. When a high-ranking official, Western official, Heraclius asked, but how many days can we fight? How many days can we endure? He said, and for the sake of these 3 or 4 days, you are destroying us? Oh, and the response was astounding. They won't kill everyone in 3 or 4 days. Then you can start a partisan movement in the forest. We will help you. You will fight from there, the politician said. That's who those people are. From Washington, from London. Not only they are just war criminals and, they are morons. They do not even understand what they are asking. And they asked, actually, the nation of Georgia to commit suicide. Because we know, in 2008, in August 2008, a Russian army, not reformed at that point of time, being in the process of the completely reforming itself. So it's even worse sometimes than when you have the older kind of version of yourself. Well, even that, it took 5 days for Russian army, which essentially was represented at that time by the 58th Army. There's some elements of them. They basically rushed through the tunnel, and they have been, already helping the South Ossetia. It took 5 days to wipe out pretty much all this, trained by NATO, all this, equipped and things like that, Georgian army. It simply disintegrated. Russians stopped 50 kilometers from Tbilisi. They didn't want to go there. Russia doesn't want to have Georgia on its balance. The same as Russia doesn't want to have Ukraine on its balance, especially with whatever is left of the remaining population, which is very hostile. And it will take a generation before they will be, clean their brains from, and will understand that basically they have been killed, not by Russians. They have been thrown against the wall. But now we know that NATO killed itself too. If anybody thinks that it's not happening, it is happening a big time. And we'll obviously have to take a look at what Mr. Erdogan will be talking about. He also is arriving to Kazan. And yeah, Mustafa Gulen died. And he was the guy, this Gulenist party, people say he is the CIA front, which very well could be. And he was his main essentially the enemy of Mr. Erdogan. And in 2016, during the unsuccessful attempt at the coup d'etat in Ankara, in Turkey, the news are this were created by Gulenists, and obviously, we have to keep in mind this story, which hasn't been confirmed yet, but actually all circumstantial evidence points out to it that actually his best friend, one of Mr. Erdogan, Vladimir Putin, saved him because he was taken out of Turkey or Ankara by Russian special forces. And he even left the actually Turkish territory, because obviously everybody was afraid for his life, because he could have been, you know what happened with people who really say things against United States. Ask Mr. Gaddafi, not today, but, sometime in the future when we all get there, who knows where. So, and yeah, that's what happens. They're getting assassinated. And Mr. Erdogan was saved evidently by Putin. And that is why they have a very good relations, despite Mr. Erdogan obviously being a consummate multi-vector, multi-chair dude. But he's also in Kazan. And he's going to be talking about things. And Turkey, by the virtue of its geography and history, is inevitable basically in BRICS. And if you take a look at the polls of Turkish population, Turks, overwhelming majority of them, they consider Russia a friend and strategic partner. There you go. 81%. So that's pretty much speaks for itself. Of course, they have a significant pro-Western faction, as it is always the case, especially in European parties, countries, and some other countries in Asia. But they are namely factions. They are usually guys who usurp the power, and they usually do not follow the desires of the population, which, by the way, is the pattern of the Western political system as we know it. It was started with the development of the industrial capitalism and the political elites which served its basically interests, but it ended up with the absolutely economic insanity of the financial capitalism, which is killing the West. Actually, it's already killed the West. As Mr. Incomparable Michael Hudson wrote, that it killed the host, period. We have today, we don't have people who really can run anything industrial, like this, for example. If you take a look, it's just absolutely devastating. And it's not just the fact that they sell some small part of the company. It is the fact that, as you can see yourself, that Boeing is in a deep, as our good friend Garland Nixon says, in a deep kimchi. The problem is that you literally do not have anymore the people who can run things properly. United States still retains some industrial potential, but even it's the jewel in the crown of the American engineering and industrial prowess, Boeing. We know it desperately fights for survival now, and it's not only about selling the assets. We know that actually 10% of the Boeing workforce will be laid off. It is a catastrophe what is happening. So. And here we have the situation with, Kazan. And then suddenly people are dealing with the not financial capital, albeit, of course, as Mr. Putin stated, he spoke to Delmar Rousseff, who is the chair of the BRICS Development Bank. They will be increasing the assets of this bank inevitably, which you need to. But The world has to be run by serious people with the serious skills and who understand what the population wants. And population always wants economic stability. They want the peace. They want calmness in the international relations. They want cooperation. They want to travel. They want to communicate. And that's what Kazan and BRICS are offering today. Unlike it is the case with the United Nations, which is utterly corrupt organization, I am on a record, it has to be dissolved together with all other institutions such as International Olympic Committees, which are utterly corrupt. We'll not speak about this, garbage like International Monetary Fund and things of this nature. And that's what is happening in Kazan today, now, this very moment. So, and this is everything I needed to tell you today. And what can I say? Those people who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on a Patreon or buy me a coffee and two. And that will be it for today, guys. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.